Hello everyone, welcome to another road to Superbowl, and today we'll talk NFC South champion Carolina Panthers. Yeah, 8 and 9 was enough. And whilst I preach caution and kind of limited approach towards the offseason with Tampa Bay Buccaneers and New Orleans Saints, I will do no such things with the Panthers because I think this is time. It's time to keep pounding and it's time to make your push, because you have 2 more years of Bryce on your rookie deal. Is he necessarily a clear-cut option, a guy that you are absolutely certain is the guy? No, but I think 2025 gave you enough hope for that to be the case, and you just need to take your shot. And this feels like a setup for it. You can clear or create 95 million in terms of cap space if you convert several of your long-term guys. Tyler Moton, Robert Hunt, Derek Brown, Trevor Mooring, J.C. Horn. You can also cut Tommy Tremble, prolong Ike Kwonu, and have 95 million in cap space. Obviously, that cap space and cap hits are going to be prolonged in the future, but I would say you have a 2-year window with Bryce on his rookie deal. And that's the window I will try to exploit as much as I can. How would I do that? Well, I would look for guys that should have 2 years of prime ahead of them and perhaps being on the trade block. Who are those guys? Well, I would start with Trey Hendrickson. I think something along the way of third round next year that's going to become a second if Trey gets an accolade, plus a fourth round this year could do the trick for the Cincinnati Bengals, because he's not a great run defender, he's getting up there in age, he was injured. I don't think they are going to get much more than something that could turn into second round pick for Trey Hendrickson. That would be one guy. Why I brought this guy? We'll get to there in terms of roster breakdown. Second guy I would definitely look for is Roquan Smith. He's not necessarily up for trade. I have not heard such rumors from the Baltimore Ravens, but to me, he's just the perfect guy for this situation. I don't necessarily think that the price for him should be humongous. I would say, perhaps second round this year with fourth back and fifth back perhaps from the Ravens. They need to take a look in the mirror. Are they actually pushing in 2025? How many years, 26, how many years are left in terms of Roquan Prime? Do they need to invest in some more youth development with Jesse Minter? Does he necessarily fit his scheme? Probably yes. He's a great player, one of the best linebackers. That's why why I want him. But at the same time, with Lamar Jackson's cap hit situation, I would say they might be intrigued by a similar option. So Roquan would be my pick, and clearly, I would try to improve this defense because I like this offense. At the same time, I think this offense still needs one more piece. And that could be a comeback of DJ Moore. I think with DJ, the situation is Chicago Bears are trying to get rid of him. Whether it's via trade, trying to bring in Max Crosby, which is probably the most likely scenario. But even in that situation, do necessarily Raiders keep him in there? Perhaps it's an option for Mendoza. But at the same time, wouldn't DJ actually be much more suited here? I don't know, could 5th or 6th round make the trick for him? Because it's not he has a huge market. He does have a reasonable big cap hit, about 28 million, and he had a down year, obviously ending up with a big interception that happened when he stopped running his route. So I don't think there would be necessarily a lot of tears from Bears fans if he's let go. So, but could he actually work here next to Ted McMillan and Jalen Coker? I think he actually runs it up nicely. He's one guy that I'm it would be nice to get him, I think. At the same time, he's not the primary guy I'm looking for. I'm looking for Trey Hendrickson and Roquan Smith. I want this defense to be really damn good because this offense already is very interesting. And I think having, I wouldn't say elite defense, but potentially top 10 defense, really brings together one of the Bryce's biggest factor, and that's his clutchness. As long as he's in game or the team is in game, he does tend to have, let's say, winning or clutch gene in him that provides a lot of comebacks in fourth quarter. So imagine if he doesn't have to come back, if his team is actually good enough to enter with leads. I think that would be the case. I think you have money to do it. You have potential to do it. You have draft capital to do it. you are set up with your young talent. And whilst, yeah, you could go like, okay, we have our young guys, let's just go with them. I will understand that approach. I also think, and I don't actually preach that way too often, you sometimes need to be aggressive and to really try to capitalize on windows. And I think Bryce Young on rookie deal is your window for the Panthers. You have owner that's willing to spend money, so like pushing some cap hit situations down the future, which requires more cash upfront, doesn't matter almost for him. So yeah, that would be my approach for Panthers of season. Let's take a look at what their roster look like and what made me think that this is actually the right thing to do. Well, it starts with the offensive line and Bryce Young. Let's start with Bryce. I'm glad that he showed enough mobility, 4.2 yards a carry. Also, he has twice as much touchdown to interception, twice as much big time throws to turnover worthy play. So I think he's checking metrics of like really a franchise quarterback. Is he necessarily a guy that's like lifting you up? No. But could he become that? Does he have the right stuff? And can he play in the biggest moments? I think so. Like Eagles in 2024, like they almost beat the Super Bowl champs that just like run through the postseason. Last year, like Matthew Stafford, they had them on the ropes. Unfortunately, they decided to play prevention defense, which against Matthew Stafford, Buchanan, Devontae Adams, and Sean McVay is stupid thing to do. You are not going to prevent them from scoring. You just are playing super passive. They are going to exploit you, as they did. But they had them on the ropes, and Bryce really played perhaps his best game of his career in that game. So I'm confident enough in him to go from here. He also like lets the ball out quickly. Perhaps that's something that I would almost like to increase for the future, because I feel like sometimes last year they played with like still kind of training wheels, tried to like really get the ball towards their playmakers rather than let Bryce cook, which I think he showed enough ability to do so. So I'm looking for this number to actually increase a little bit, because I want him to be much more of a playmaker. And offensive line, what they have done for Bryce Young after his rookie year disaster should be really something that a lot of teams that are drafting a young QB really need to take a look and try to replicate, because they were like, okay, dude was bad, truly bad, but we also did not give him too much to work with. Let's freaking protect him. Let's spend our money on our offensive line, because great offensive line, unless you are truly horrendous, you should be able to put up some good performances. And obviously Bryce did much more than that. So they entrusted that he has enough talent to get a lot out of a good protection. And they've put together, in my eyes, top 5 offensive line in football. Ike Ekwonu definitely still improving as a young tackle. On the other side, Tyler Moton on his decline. At the same time, do I trust him that he could still have like 2 years of good football left in him? I do. The same goes with Damian Lewis, Robert Hunt. A lot of like cap hit situations and contracts, they all kind of end in 2 years. Like Hunt, 3 years. Tyler, 2 years. Ike Ekwonu, we are making contract extension that actually lowers his cap hit for 2026, so we have him for next 2 years. Damian Lewis also 2 years. So this all just makes too much sense that you have this offensive line, hopefully still in some of their primes, perhaps Tyler Moton like slightly past it, but still functional. And Bryce Young hopefully reaching his great upside prior to paying him a fortune. It just makes too much sense, man. Damian Lewis, what a freaking year for him. With Robert Hunt for majority of the year, he needed to step up. And he was always a very good run blocker. Like from his time in Seattle, that was his selling point. But what he started to do and become in terms of pass protection, that's just tip of my cap to him. Because man, like he only allowed 1 sack on more than 630 snaps. That's incredible job for Damian Lewis. And to me, rightfully so, he becomes a top 10 guard on my rankings. I truly think he's actually right now a better player than Robert Hunt, who they pay around like 8 to 9 millions more. It doesn't take away that Robert Hunt is a bad guard. I think he's a good value for money. I just think Damian Lewis is really a premium value. In terms of center, they are switching around with Brady Christensen, Cade Mays, and Austin Corbett. To me, my choice would be bring back two veterans in Austin Corbett and Barry Christensen, because I think their cap hit situation would be similar to Kate Mays, who has a potential to be a young superstar. Still, I think there's a lot of potential in him, because there's injury-wise related, he was really highly recruited guy for college. Then there were some problems, but you can see his upside. At the same time, with this offensive line, I think you are much more looking for good base and depth, rather than looking for that one piece that, okay, could it make truly special offensive line? Yes, I would much rather have security of two good bodies that could fix both my guard and center spot. But overall, I like this offensive line. This is a great setup for Bryce that I upped from decent starter to good starter, because I think he deserved it from 2025. Obviously, with Damian, I upped him from important starter towards amazing, making him top 10 guard, because he added towards his pass blocking efficiency really nice tape in 2025. Now, here, like I said, I think veteran investments is what I'm making. I would also look for a tackle for the future in the draft, but not a big investment should be made here. The question is, what do you do in terms of your weaponry? And again, you can see, this looks very filled. Where is Tommy Tremble? I would actually cut Tommy. I think saving money there is actually wise, because I want more playing time for Mitchell Evans and Jatavion Sanders. So in my eyes, Tommy Tremble is not bad. He's still probably better than these two guys right now. I really do like Mitchell Evans, but at the same time, I want my youth prospects to play. And where there is just this much of a difference, I would rather save around the $6 million and provide playing time for these two young tight ends. Now, this room is good. It to me still could require one more piece. If you are not going about bringing DJ Moore, you can definitely think about drafting a wide receiver in the first round. Because as much as I like Jalen Coker and Tetero McMillan, Xavier Legette, you did not get what you drafted for. And imagine having wide receiver trio in which Jalen Coker is this slot monster. He's absolutely incredible. I like the comparison that franchise guy, one of the best YouTubers out there. If you are not following him, you better shoot. Then franchise guy. He made a comparison between Jalen Coker and Adam Thielen. I just love it, man, because undrafted guys really, they are catching everything, man. Over 80% contested catch rate for Jalen Coker is incredible. Anytime you throw a ball at him, you just expect him to come down with it. He can find a space. It's not like he's overly quick, overly deceptive, the best ground runner, though he runs pretty good routes. He's just savvy and smart about it. He's just a football player, as lazy as that sounds. Next to him, you have Ted McMillan, who, to me, if he gets rid of drops, we can talk about him within 2 or 3 years towards really that elite category. If not, I think he's still going to become a really good number one. I think even he played almost like that in his rookie year, which is exceptional. If you can run this room out with first round talent from this draft, perhaps you are cooking with more draft. But I would much rather, instead of investing this premier resource into that, I would rather spend some money, bring DJ Moore for 5th or 6th round, still have potential of Xavier Legette leaning in, but as well as having this really nice trio of Coker, McMillan, and DJ Moore, which would also enable me to not spend big for tight end, because I have enough in terms of pass catching ability, and I like the combo duo of Mitchell Evans and Jatavion Sanders to improve together, to perhaps in a years after we pay Bryce, you need still some young and cheap option, which these guys could still be for you. With Chuba Hubbard, I think he's going to be a feature back of 2026 Carolina Panthers. They kind of made it clear with cutting Rico Dowdle's carries. He did not take it well, but let's be honest, after a special start, his stats did kind of plummet. And Chuba coming back kind of overtook the room back. I would say they were playing towards the same level at the end of the year, but Chuba is a leader of this room, and you have drafted ETN last year, who is a nice RB3, and you still have second round investment from 2 years prior, Jonathan Brooks, coming off another devastating injury, but with almost 1.5 year of recovery that you are hoping that you can still squeeze some juice from him. So I would say they won't touch this room. The question is, do you touch the wide receiver? Like, if you are not bringing a veteran, like, can you go with Jalen Coker that McMillan's able to get? Perhaps when you keep Joby Tremble, like, I can see them going into this direction, and like, I still would be fine with that. In my world, it's not maximizing your opportunity, because I think there's clearly one. Like, just think about this division also. Like, Falcons, we'll talk about them tomorrow, but I would actually entertain a soft rebuild. I will let you know why in tomorrow's episode. But like, the big one is like, what is Michael Penix, right? Tampa and what they were in the end of last year, that was kind of horrendous. Like, you don't know which type of baker you are getting. Some of the veterans are growing older. Like, is this necessarily a team that you just cannot beat? I don't think so. And Saints, as much as I am super high on Tyler Shack, they are still in rebuild mode, and I would say realistically 2027 should be at best their first push year. So this division is up for the take. Let's take it, man. Let's freaking take it. Now let's take a look at what they have in terms of depth. Again, like, this team should be very well set. Jatavion Sanders as your tight end 2, Jimmy Horn as your wide receiver 4. I like these two options. Austin Corbett, like I said, I would bring back. The same with Brady Christensen. And like, one clear spot here is like a backup tight end that, with Tyler Moton aging out, second round investment, perhaps even like, if some of the guys are falling, if you are not going for push this season, I can see them taking a great look at tight end, at offensive tackle in the first round. Andy Dalton, there has been some rumors that there are some trade opportunities for him. I really wonder how Carolina approaches this, because you are not getting like a premium pick. I think he would fetch like 4th or 5th round, but at the same time, he's just such a perfect backup for Bryce Young, and a guy that I credit a lot for Bryce Young being able to become a clear NFL starter, that I would just like not take it. But at the same time, Andy's been so good for you. Do you deny him opportunity to perhaps fight for a starting job somewhere else? We will have to wait and see, but I would love him back, because he just makes so much sense. And especially like in a year that I would push, I don't want any other guy to back up Bryce Young rather than Andy Dalton. Now let's take a look about the defense, and I think you can clearly see what my point is. Derek Brown, he's a special player, man. Truly one of the most underrated guys in the whole freaking league. Special run defender, one of the best. Like, I would say slightly better version of Vita Vea. That, like, if he can add more pass rush, I would put elite status next to him. After injury, he's like doesn't look as sharp as he did in like 2024, so I needed to lower him towards just an amazing starter, but he would still be like probably my top 5 defensive tackle in the league. Next to him, Bobby Brown, absolutely great addition. They work very well next to each other. Unfortunately, the third addition that they made last offseason, Tershawn Wharton, that was kind of a emergency, desperate plan when Milton Williams decided last moment that he's going to sign for slightly much more money with Patriots. It did not work out. I mean, Tershawn Wharton was a clear liability in terms of run defense, which was kind of expected, something that Milton Williams isn't. So like they should just they should never let Milton Williams be overpaid. Like, overpay him yourself, but not bring Tershawn Wharton. That always felt like a really stupid decision, and for front office that I rarely criticize, this was a big mistake in my opinion. Like, I pointed it out. I think I gave it an E at that point, and I would stand my ground on that. And for reliability in terms of run defense, he only delivered 2 sacks, and his pass rush win rate and overall presence was just almost non-existent. So that just sucks a little bit. At the same time, we will still have him because of guarantees. As defensive tackle 3, you can go with that. But you are clearly missing a number 1 edge. Nick Scotton, good rookie season, nothing special. Really a guy that I would really like to develop as your edge 2. Perhaps fight with Prince Lumamialan, who had even worse rookie season. Like, his pass rush win rate, even though he was used as a kind of pass rush specialist, was not good. So your investment last year did not necessarily pay off the way that Falcons did. Obviously, you made a lower level of investment there. It was not a first round guys. But like, I think they are like solid enough base and prospects for number 2 and number 3 edge. But you are missing that one. And again, if you don't think you should go for it this season, maybe you can justify like, okay, let's give Nick Scotton and Princely much more playing time, perhaps bring another second round into this room and like go from that. I mean, it just feels like such a waste, man. Like such a waste of a year in which like I think this team is ready. Like I think you have good enough young weapons, great offensive line, some great players in defense. Just like bring the missing pieces in and be aggressive, man. It's like I understand if you want to give your guys, you drafted well, you are happy with that, etc., and you want to be kind of natural about this, not pushing money down the line. And I usually am with this strategy. I like this. But here, I just don't. I just think it's such a great opportunity. And the guys, I think, are there. They are on the market. I think Trey Hendrickson is definitely there. And, you know, now, for linebackers, yeah, this is not a great situation, hence why I would make second big investment here. If you are not going to make it through trade, I would not be surprised if they are spending first round here, because a great linebacker class, at least from preliminary seeking that I had. But like, beside Trevin Wallace, you can bring Christian Osborne back, but it's not like he's been great for them. He's been like a replaceable level starting guy. I just want more. I want more from this room. And I think you can get it, man. Go for it, Panthers. And like Trevin Wallace as a base linebacker too that has some potential and like was looking better in his second year. Fine with me. But you need one. And Rock One is my one. Okay, let's take a look at the secondary. And this is another like room that I'm just like seeing that is happy. That is ready. Like JC Horn. You might question that I only have him as an important starter because a lot of people is very high on him. And I would say he's an upper echelon important starter. He's absolutely a guy that you can trust as your number one corner. I do that. I just don't think he's like a plus entity as a number one corner. I think he gets the job done. He doesn't bring that level of, let's say, playmaking. Compared to not playmaking, I think he's a good enough playmaker, but the level of like shutdownity to have used this term as really plus number one corners. Like, okay, I can talk about Pat Surtain, but so is Gardner, but they're the guys that I would consider a plus number one corners that just won't have over like close to 60% completion rate that JC does. You know, like when the ball is getting thrown at him, you are okay with that because he's a playmaker. At the same time, you are not necessarily like super great leaving him on the island, and just know that you are not going to regret it in some games. In some, it's going to be to a benefit. In some, he's going to get slightly burned. And that's my definition of like he can take the role, but he's neutral entity, not the plus one. On the other side of him, Mike Jackson. What a freaking year for this veteran. Like, he was, to me, a better corner. Like, obviously, he tends to get much more of wide receiver number twos, but at the same time, he was exceptional. Like, that playoff game against the Rams, he looked good. He has, I would say, some matchups that he's going to feel better at because he's not necessarily a super speedy guy. He's a big guy. He's going to overwhelm you with physical presence. But some really good and speed wide receivers could get the better of him. But at the same time, like what he's doing for the secondary and on the contract, yeah, that's total steal, man. Like, and after this year, he's going to be 30, and I would not be surprised if he gets something to like 3 years, 40 million somewhere else, because he's one of the better CB2s in the league. Like, I would argue top 5. Now, you are still not sure about your slot option. You can go with Josh Midwade. I think he's played enough good tape out there that I would give him a chance. And you might be like, okay, but you want to push. Well, at some places, I think you need to go with guys that are just not like super level starters, but you are okay with them trying there. And when it's slot corner, a position that I think you can find in 4th or 5th level of draft, you can definitely invest some resources there, but you don't need to spend premium. And I'm okay with Josh Midwade getting the opportunity. In terms of safeties, Trevon and Nick Scott, I think are workable safety duo. Do you get what you paid for in Trevon Morik? I don't think so. At the same time, there's just not necessarily a point of cutting him or like looking for trade. I think he's still like a solid use of resources, not necessarily exceptional value for money. But the contract is structured the way that you are just not getting a way out in this offseason. If he continues to play like he did last year, I would argue next season you have to consider cutting him, because 22 million for him as a safety is just not worth it. Now, let's take a look at who is the backups for this team. In terms of defensive line, I think you are actually set quite well with Princely. You need to spend on edge, whether it's going to be Trey Hendrickson or someone in the first round. Like, it's a clear weakness. I don't think you have necessarily enough rotational pieces. Like Patrick Jones, I would argue could get cut there. I just like don't see him bringing like $10 million value though. Like his cut is just saving $5 million. So is he worth $5 million to keep in? I guess like if you don't want to like invest there like 2 draft options or like other premium assets, I would probably keep him for 1 more year. But at the same time, clearly this is your weakness on this defense alongside with linebackers. In terms of interior, Ashan Robinson, I would argue, gets you much more than Tershawn Wharton, though he's costing you much less. At the same time, neither of these guys are necessarily like easy to cut given the contract. With Tershawn, there is nothing to save in 2026, and with O'Shawn, you could save 10 millions, but I would argue he's actually a good veteran presence that is kind of worth keeping that. I guess it depends how much you want to invest in this room, whether you kind of want to like create as much cap space possible, like naturally. I could see Ashan Robinson being on his way out, but at the same time, like I don't think he's necessarily like a net negative in terms of his value compared to what you are paying him. In terms of secondary and linebackers, I think the room is a little bit lacking the depth. I like Relton Ransom as a backup for the safeties, and potentially if Trevon is not like working out and you are really going about this youth movement continuation, perhaps he could be up for the starting job in 2027. But I would still like try to take a look at these positions in draft and fill this room, as well as with some veteran options. We just like there is no clear evidence who that's going to be, whether they will fill it within their own roster. These are like what I'm trying to give you here is like guys that I do expect to have these roles. If I'm not sure there is a guy on the roster worth the job, I'm just not putting him here. So that was your Carolina Panthers. I really think they should look at the state of the roster, state of this division, Bryce Young having 2 years of his rookie contract left when he pick up his 5th-year option, which I think they will, and just go for it, man. Like, is this the best window? Hell no. Like, Seahawks and Rams are not going anywhere, at least for a year. In Seahawks' case, probably for 2 more. And overall, the NFC is still stacked as hell. But this might be your best window for next 5 years, so let's go for it. Because with Bryce, as much as I'm happy that he becomes a starter and like really cementing himself as a starting alongside the way and potentially a franchise guy for the Panthers, his potential, I don't really see him like carrying this franchise on his shoulders and being this next Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, etc. Like, I think kind of best scenario is a guy with quality of Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, which still is very, very plus, but this is to me kind of best case scenario. So, and you are going to pay him like 50 million plus. That's just the reality of the thing if he's your franchise guy. And with that ceiling, I'm looking at the future years, and I think, yeah, this is your time, man. T-Mac on rookie deal. You have great offensive line with 2 years left on pretty much everyone there. You have some other talent, Derek Brown. I would just go for it. What do you think?